From where I'm sitting, Inaba is probably one of the most dynamic and comfy breathing spaces in RPGs for at least the time it was released. Even the most minor of unnamed characters at school will have whole character arcs if you just talk to them every dungeon or so. And even if it's not a big character arc or a big story, it's cool to see how their lives have progressed. It gives a feeling of wholeness in the world. And so today, we're going to cover all of the things like that make Inaba a dynamic location, some of which being much more major than what I just mentioned as an offhanded comment. So let's get started. One thing I think is really cool is that small details and consistencies can be found across all social links and optional events through the story. It gives a real feeling of cohesiveness to all of these links that makes it so they don't seem like they're just in a vacuum. And that wholeness is doubled down by the fact that every time you go to do a social link, you're able to see it. Whether it's sunny, cloudy, covered in snow or fog, it always represents the location and time period that you are currently doing that part of the story. It makes it seem like it isn't just a segmented off cutscene for an unrelated character arc, but part of Inaba as a whole. Those are just general things though. The first thing I think of easily for a truly cohesive idea is the group of juvie delinquents stealing from people. This group of people is never talked to directly by yourself or seen outside of social links and events, but they make mention across multiple social links unrelated. 3 to be exact. In Chie's social link, they are the most prominent, as her standing up to them and rescuing both the child and her quote-unquote friend. This is actually the only time you see the group properly and get a lot of lines out of them. But I remember, I thought it was weird on my first playthrough that they just seemed to show up in her link. Then I realized they aren't just showing up in her link randomly. Before Kanji's link, there's a girl that can be found that tells you that she feels unsafe now that Kanji's at school, and tells you where to find him because supposedly he's been bullying people with a gang of others. This doesn't seem like much, but later in Kanji's link, after he's given the boy and their family the stuffed animals, Kanji gets stopped by the police as they mention a group robbing children and cite him being seen with a kid at the floodplain. Considering they're also robbing a child in Chie's social link, that detail is a really nice touch and brings them together pretty nicely. But hey, 2 isn't a pattern, 3 is. So, then again, at Dojima's rank 10, after you max him out, a cop is calling out as Dojima asks what's up, and he's told, "Oh, it's that group of juvie thieves." This sort of internal consistency is small, but it adds up so much to the world, and it's only one of dozens of details like this around the world of Inaba that you may not have even put together on a first playthrough. It gives the sense that the entire story was written cohesively rather than just one disconnected junction at a time. Now, I promised Cole that I wouldn't tell anybody, but another kind of deep lore Persona 4 Golden bit of trivia is that Cole has a crush on Chie. This is never discussed in either him or Daisuke's link, but instead is found late into Ai's social link after she wants you to pry and see if he likes her. This isn't it though. For anybody who knows he likes her right out from Ai's social link, it's also something expanded upon in the optional and kind of hard to see without a guide book club cutscenes. Not really a book club, but I call them that as shorthand. Basically, in order to read every book in Persona 4 Golden, there are specific one-time chances and requirements for 3 optional Strength Arcana cutscenes that give you books. Chie shows up in 2 of them, and Cole is visibly flustered. Doing these with the added information of Ai's social link lends to how bad he is at hiding his feelings, despite nobody seeming to pick up on it. Chie even mislabels Cole in the second book club scene as someone in Yukiko's fan club, which Cole awkwardly tries to deny, but it obviously is restricted, since he can't just say he likes her instead. I mean, I guess he could, but, you know, he's a good old shy boy. Another really deep cut most people don't put together, and I don't think I've ever seen someone else mention, is that Yosuke actually canonically hits on Miss Kashiwagi before she took reins as your replacement teacher. When Yosuke gets a number on Operation Babewatch, and the number he calls ends up being Hanako, that wasn't just a prank from some mean girl from his school, remember? It was an older woman who gave him that. Literally everything, when we look in retrospect, points to this being Kashiwagi, and I'm gonna go through why exactly. I want to cite something Yukiko says on the inn trip, where she mentions that Hanako and Kashiwagi often spend time together on little vacations, such as coming to the inn to cry a lot.
They come and stay here now and again. Usually they come to cry when something breaks their hearts.
And so aside from Hanako currently being in Okina City to shop, which makes sense for Kashiwagi to be alongside, listen to how Yosuke describes the woman when Yosuke mentions how he got the number.
Of course I did. One phone number right here.
Amazing!
Man, it wasn't easy too. She was crazy hot. I just had to push myself a bit and go for a sexy older woman. Time to give her a call. I hope you guys are ready for this.
He says this, which I find hilarious in context of knowing it's Kashiwagi he's talking about. Now technically this is all in the main story events, and I don't normally consider those to be a part of making us feel like the world is a kinetic place regardless of actions taken. But in this case, it's something you can only know in retrospect with knowledge of later portions of the game, and putting it back together. Which I think lends to the idea still that even when we aren't equipped with the information to understand the full length of situations, they still carry out all the same in Persona 4 Golden. The world isn't built around events that we interact with, but instead we interact with events that are already moving within the world. It's a hard thing to accomplish in games, and a lot of that effort goes underappreciated. Here's a few speed rounds, because one way Persona 4 Golden keeps a lively world is actually the same way it tries to hint you towards social links and options. Like the example I mentioned earlier of the girl tying in the rumor of Kanji being involved with the delinquents to letting you know where he's available. So here's the speed round. The male student in your classroom by the window mentions some supposed genius in elementary school who studies all the time and how his mother wants him to be like that and be number one. We eventually find later in the game a character named Shu, and his mother is doing that exact thing, and while in America technically he's implied to be in middle school and not elementary, I believe this may have been an accidental translation error from the original Japanese. Another one, there's a girl named Shy Student on the second floor hallway who's gay. Look, everyone, representation. No, but she basically has an evolving arc surrounding her love for her senpai that goes through some trials and tribulations throughout the game. It's just nice to come in and see how it's going. The stylish student also has a tale about love and heartbreak, refocusing his priorities. Good for him. Obviously, Mitsuo Kubo and Namatame can also be seen showing up at various times and locations as NPCs in the map, namely in the shopping district, as well as Namatame being by the river, makes it feel a little less like they just popped out of nowhere when they made their main story appearances. There's an old man that sometimes takes walks at night, and his middle-aged housewife daughter mentions in the daytime at the shopping district that she's worried about her dad being out so late since he's old. People wouldn't probably think of it, since 99% of people probably do Nanako and Ryotoro's social link in their first playthrough, but the constant overlap with both each other and the main story is also really well handled, and gives a lot more context to the Heaven Dungeon once it arrives. But if we want to talk crossover between links, I honestly think that would be cheating, since it's the same primary characters involved in that stuff, so of course they'll be overlapping. I will say one small detail that people might overlook though. Naoto's dungeon is a secret base, but she used to call her childhood treehouse that, we find out in her social link. Everyone knows that there are multiple social links that only start and only become available via other social links, like Ai and Hisano's social links, but there's also subtle nods between the social links as well, mentioning being unable to help in one of Daisuke's social links because of serious family commitments, which seems casual enough, but takes on a new life if you've done Cole's social link on another playthrough and roughly knows what part of his life he's currently in. Be with his family restricting his freedom with sports and trying to train him as a proper heir to the family line. There's the obviously multiple references to the TV show The Featherman Rangers, a parody of Super Sentai, that has been present in every Persona game, even back in the Persona 2 duology. This is mentioned by Kanji at one point, is a plot point in multiple ranks of Eddie's social link, and of course there are the Featherman outfits in the game. Also, Kanji mentions that Naoto's secret base reminds him of Featherman, and this actually seems to hold weight with some of the design inspiration of the original Super Sentai Evil Bases. Something I like as well is that the large number of social links take place outdoors, and is something that Persona 4 does more than any of the other Hoshino Personas. This outside aspect combined with the variety of weather has characters constantly changing outfits, minor changes to the scenery, and this even causes minor dialogue additions to some social links that allude to the weather changes, like how Ayane mentions that the rain is lightening up, or that she's going to practice under the gazebo thing instead of staying out in the rain. The extra attention to detail with every aspect of Inaba's world often goes undernoticed and underappreciated, because I think it's the sort of thing that when it works well, it feels so natural. But it's easy to imagine the countless RPGs where dialogue is plain, unchanging, and blatantly tutorialized. I want to address him more in a different segment, but take a look at the Bookman, for instance. He serves basically as a sign to tell you when the new books are coming in, and eventually becomes a mini quest vendor. But if you pay attention to what he says when he says it, he actually really has a passion for reading, and has plenty of extra lines to flesh out some of these stories that you only get brief descriptions of. Like when he sadly calls out for one of his favorite authors to come back, knowing that his final book is dropped in a long series that you've read throughout the game. Something else that really breathes life into Inaba are the bits of foreshadowing that are sometimes impossible to pick up on your first playthrough, due to them being fundamentally unimportant details by any sane regard. Mainly the recurrence of Namatame's truck that he used to kidnap people. Now, if you've been into Persona 4 for a while now, it's very possible you already heard about the Namatame truck going by when the investigation team in Adachi chased the creepy otaku guy down the street, just before Risei's arc. While they move away, Namatame's truck drives by, and you may not think much of it, as this is too early in the game to even have a reasonable suspicion, or even get close to that reasoning. But less people, I think, know about its earlier appearance at the gas station at the very, very beginning of the game. There is a question asked of Izanami as when Namatame and Adachi received their powers from her, and shook hands with the gas station attendant. But the game gives us its presumed answer, and it's moments before you yourself arrive, which can be taken by the gas station attendant quickly running over from behind the truck as it leaves. Inaba breathes. It moves. Sure, you don't get literally new dialogue on every character every day, but most of them updating with major events and dungeons is often enough to give that impression that the game is moving along with you, rather than being a static place where you do the same 5 tasks 100 times. Back in 2019, when I played this for the first time on PS2, my initial impression was, wow, this game is a whole lot smaller than Persona 5. You have countless places to visit, mini-games to play, stores to go inside, and yeah, Persona 5 did expand the world a ton. Hey, even Persona 3 has a larger feeling to it, but the shorter budget and turnaround time of Persona 4, although given more content later with Golden, I came to see as, while not as many areas, there is a feeling of denseness, of movement within these areas with the people living within them. And it feels like there are people living within them. It's clear that they were not underbaked in the slightest, and I've come to appreciate how this feeling, this smaller yet beautiful living world of Inaba, contributes to the idea that even though it seems like there's nothing to do out in the boonies, there are so many beautiful things and people living there that are worthy of respect. Thanks for watching. This is one of a huge series analyzing all the aspects of Persona 4 Golden. If you want to see more and see this content promoted, please like, comment, and share where Persona fans are likely to see it. Thank you very much once again. I'll be trying to reply to as many comments as I can. Please turn on the bell notifications, as plenty more videos will be coming out very soon. And lastly, if you'd like to see behind the scenes content, you can see so on Patreon. I'll be streaming on Twitch. See you soon.